Hospet is a city in Karnataka state which dates back to 1520. There's a market here every Monday when everyone comes in from the surrounding countryside. What's Kieran found this time? The city is 12 kilometres from the historic site of Hampi and is a good base to visit it from. We stayed at the Evolve Back Kamalapura Palace, whose architecture is based on the Indo-Islamic style of 14th century Hampi. An historic ambassador car sat in the portico just outside reception. After checking in and admiring the floral display, we were taken in the car to our villa via the scenic route. Because there was a big wedding party staying at the hotel, we'd been upgraded to a Jal Mahal villa in the grounds so we wouldn't be disturbed. The villas are surrounded by lily ponds. This was ours, all of it. Our entrance hall with indoor garden led to the dining room. Through the archway was a lounge. Next came the bedroom. Down the corridor was the bathroom and dressing area. Opposite this was the double shower and a path through another garden to the back door. Outside was an 8-metre private pool surrounded by more water lilies. The patio had sun loungers and a mandapa, a covered daybed. From the hotel we drove to Hampi, once the capital of one of the largest Hindu empires in Indian history. We went into the main complex through the royal entrance, and the first thing we saw was a monolithic statue of Ganesh, the elephant-headed god, carved from a single stone. From here we climbed 70 steps to the top of Hematuka Hill, for views of the 10-square-mile boulder-strewn landscape, interspersed with coconut palms and paddy fields. The hill is covered with ancient shrines and temples, all built with stone from the hill. On the other side of the hill is the Virupaksha temple. The slope leading down to the temple is known as the amphitheatre and contains many more shrines. Some of these are home to langur monkeys. Just inside the temple gate is the only known triple-headed Nandi bull. The main temple was built in the 15th century, but the complex, believed to be one of the oldest active religious sites in India, dates from the 7th century. From the entrance, the passage runs between pillared halls to the main building. The ceiling was painted with vegetable dyes 500 years ago. We couldn't film the ceremonies, but they were being shown on CCTV. A side gate leads to the inner court, with numerous shrines and a pool for ritual bathing. Just outside are the partially renovated ruins of the old bazaar. Nearby, in a pillared hall, is another, even bigger Ganesh monolith, again carved from a single rock. At the Lakshmi Narasimha temple is the largest statue in Hampi, Lord Vishnu in his half-man, half-lion incarnation. Next to it is the Madhava Linga Shiva temple. The lingam, an abstract representation of Shiva, sits in a pool of water. We drove a short distance to the underground Shiva temple, which dates back to the 14th century. It remained buried for over 400 years until it was discovered and excavated in the 1980s. Because it's below current ground level, the sanctum and core part of the temple are usually underwater. When we were there, it was just possible to go down and explore it. A 16th century marriage hall of the gods stands alongside the temple. A few miles down the road is the Zanana, or women's enclosure. This basement area is all that remains of the Queen's Palace. On the other side of the path is the Lotus Mahal, a two-storied pavilion built in Indo-Islamic style. This is the architectural style that our hotel is based on. A wall at the end of the enclosure is built of interlocking stone without mortar, similar to the Inca style of Peru. Beyond the wall is the old elephant stable. 11 square chambers, each big enough for 2 elephants, have arched entrances, and the 5 at each end have alternate fluted and plain domes. The middle chamber contains stairs to reach the roof. The outer chambers have interconnecting doorways. Not far away in the royal enclosure is the Hazara Rama, the king's private temple. It has exceptional carved outer walls, unusual in temples of this era. The top half is brick and the lower half is stone. The inner shrine has 43 polished pillars with detailed religious carvings. Nearby is the king's ceremonial viewing platform. An aqueduct brought water from a system of canals to feed the stepped tank used for cleansing before going into the temples. It's unusual in that it isn't built from local stone. By contrast, the 80-metre long, 4-metre deep pool next to it was used for swimming. These monolithic stone doors once stood at the entrance to the royal enclosure. Just beyond the stone doors is the Queen's Bath. This indoor aquatic complex was probably used by the ladies of the court, or even the king himself. A large veranda with protruding balconies all round faces the central pool. This was fed by an aqueduct. We then headed north on a rough road towards the Vitala temple complex. Cars can't go to the temple, so you have to either walk or queue for one of the fleet of electric buggies. Naturally, we took the buggy option. Five minutes later, we arrived at the temple gate. The complex contains many shrines and halls, and the pillars of this one play musical notes when tapped. A miniature temple is carved on the side. The star attraction is a shrine in the form of a stone chariot, complete with stone wheels. In the distance is Ananaya Hill, where we will be going the following day. Then we left the complex to return to the hotel. When we got there, we found preparations for the wedding were in full swing. In the central courtyard, a series of areas have been provided for guests to have their henna tattoos, an essential part of Indian weddings. We went to see how it was done, chat to them and admire their saris. Special attention was being given to the bride, whose groom offered her a rose. They and all their family are doctors. The henna is applied as a paste and, when dry, is washed off to leave a tattoo that lasts for up to 3 weeks. The following morning we drove first to Malayavanta. At a temple at the bottom of a hill we saw a chipmunk. On the top of the wall was a green parrot. When we climbed the hill at the back, we found a cave temple on the top. In front of this was a large collection of lingams. From the top of the hill there was a panorama of Hampi, with Anegundi in the distance. As we drove towards Anegundi, we came across a village which was getting ready for a religious parade. As soon as the cameras came out, all the children in the village rushed to be on film. Kieran, our driver, joined them, but where he got this bike from, goodness knows. Final adjustments were being made to the chariot that would be pulled round the village later in the day. Then the band turned up. This was closely followed by ladies with temple offerings. The Tungabhadra river, which separates Hampi from Anegundi, can flood to become very wide, which is why it needs such a long bridge to cross it. We continued to Anegundi and parked outside the recently restored 16th century palace. Across the road is the garishly painted Ranganatha Swami temple. It's important to take off your slipers before you go in. On the outside wall are several paintings representing various Hindu gods. The ladies were washing their clothes down by the river. We went through the back streets of the village, where we found rice, betel nuts, hibiscus and lemons. There was also a banana plantation. Just beyond is a former ashram or religious school set in a beautiful, peaceful garden.
Yeah, there is a small cave.
We then moved on past the livestock to Anjanaya Hill, reputed to be the birthplace of the monkey god Hanuman. There's a market selling local trinkets and the colours used for religious markings on the forehead.
White for Shiva and Vishnu, yellow for Ganesha, red for Parvati, and orange for monkey god Hanuman.
Here we were approached by these young men wanting photographs. Continuing through the market, we came across a group of monkeys. An archway led to the steps up to the temple at the top of the hill, where we realised there were 575 of them. We decided against the climb. About a kilometre away, in a valley hidden amongst the hills, is Pampa Sarovar, one of the 5 sacred lakes of India. Near the lake are two temples, one to Lakshmi and one to Shiva. In front of the temples is a ritual cleansing tank, and alongside this, under a mango tree, is a statue of Ganesh. We then drove back past the rice paddies for one last night at the hotel.